Why, hello, friends. It's me, Lauren Tombtone, your host for Sunglasses After Dark. This is our debut episode, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to finally be here with you, sharing this adventure of an idea that began well over a year ago. And, well, how can I say? It took me on quite an adventure getting here, let alone the investigative dive into tonight's subject matter, which I will reveal in a moment. In tonight's episode of Sunglasses After Dark, we will be exploring the potential backstory that I have uncovered in my investigative meditations, if you will, of the backstory of Sally Hardesty, the legendary first final girl from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's right, for those of you who may not know this, one interesting aspect about her in particular and that film is that it did in fact establish the final girl trope. Imagine, before then, no one survived. But from that moment on, we had a new hero, a modern heroine, in truth, that came to define over time many different women in many different situations, but with a recurrent theme. However, tonight we will be exploring the what ifs, what could have beens, and perhaps a few oh my's as we take a deep dive into the backstory of Sally Hardesty from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right here on Sunglasses After Dark, with me, Lauren Tombtone. Stick around, friends. And welcome back, friends. Are you ready to take a deep dive into the potential backstory of Sally Hardesty with me? I hope you are. I know I have my lenses cued. So let's go. As the film opens, the first thing that we notice about Sally is she has her attention more so a bit on everyone. Most of the other characters are somewhat into themselves and a bit distracted. Sally always has her heartbeat a little bit on and pulse of everyone, so to speak. And within that, we encounter our first situation of memories at the farmhouse. Regarding the farmhouse, it makes you wonder, how could Sally have these memories of this place without having had any further connections, so to speak? Her brother, who is wheelchair bound at the time of the film, we must wonder, knew about the swimming hole, which inclines us to wonder perhaps Franklin was not always wheelchair bound. She seems to always want to include him in her adventures, and that leads us to believe that perhaps that comes from an earlier connection that she's still trying to keep alive, at least in my mind. It has played out that way. But as we move back to the farmhouse, we realize it borders the infamous farmhouse property, and we must wonder to ourselves, did they have a connection growing up? As we see in the van, there's a connection of the slaughterhouse amongst both families, having had family members worked there, past and present, and the connection of the closure of that slaughterhouse possibly being connected to the moving out of the initial Franklin mansion and all the subsequent dilapidation that occurred. It is also intriguing to me that there's various signs of occupation by the brother, who is quite the sculptor, if you will, and his offerings and warnings are quite profound when encountered in the house, as they foreshadow much of what's to come. As the horrors begin to play out, we see Sally continue to have a focus on the rest of the characters who, one by one, have that unfortunate draw to the farmhouse. They seem overwhelmed when they're there. As Sally inevitably encounters Leatherface and makes her escape through the brushwork and night forest of thatchy wood and plants, and the whole escape scene itself being a metaphor for her being trapped in a maze, so to speak. But she seems to have a relentlessness and knowledge of where to go. Perhaps it is the lights in the distance, but she seems to know that area well. Could it have been hide and seek as a child? We may never know. Once she's in the farmhouse, however, rather than being completely overwhelmed, she has an instinctive directionality to where she goes in the house. Her escape once again leads her along an established road, perhaps, but again, her instinct, I like to think, perhaps is kicking in to an earlier time, that she may have been fleeing from that house under perhaps less dire circumstances, but as a child. Once she is, unfortunately, returned to the house after being kidnapped at the gas station, her subsequent torture is obviously her final breaking point. But what happens seems to be a resilience kicking in rather than a sense of exhausted defeat. There's a whole nother level of Sally that we see emerge that we must wonder to ourselves, where does that spirit come from? Because the rest of the characters folded under the initial pressure, where she had an initially different instinct. And we must wonder, where does that come from? As Sally makes her final escape from the farmhouse in the early morning light, her sense of determination is so palpable. It echoes something we could say primal, but it's more immediate than that. It's a sense of urgency that I think we've all felt at some point in our lives. We've all known that we had to get out of somewhere, and we would escape that somewhere. That determination is the last thing that we see in her eyes that is familiar to us. But the face we see, escaping, if you will, in the end, is one that leaves us wondering, has the person she was escaped at all? Or is she even still there? Perhaps who she became in the end is who she was initially, years ago, after perhaps initially escaping that farmhouse as a child. Only years later to return, unknowingly, unsuspectingly, but perhaps intentionally. Is it any chance and real coincidence that they encountered the brother as a hitchhiker on the road that day? That it was on a, how shall we say, less than fortunate astrological day as well. So many of the cards were against them. yet they went anyways, like moths to the flame. Something drew them, partially history, but that history seemed not a pleasant one on the surface that any of them could clearly remember. So why? Perhaps it was something in them that needed to reconnect to that time, just to determine, was it as bad as they remember? Was it more than they remembered? We know what it turned out to be, but we may never know what it was. But it sure is fun to think sometimes about what could be. That's one of the things I love about horror films, is they, in a lot of ways, offer us not only a way of processing the unimaginable, but give us the opportunity to imagine the unimaginable. With that being said, all this talking has sure got me thirsty. I do hope you stick around for the next segment where we quench our thirst in more ways than one with our sit down with the enigmatic Nikita Romanoff of the Haus of Romanoff, right here on Sunglasses After Dark, with me, Lauren Tombtone. All right, friends, welcome back to Sunglasses After Dark with me, Lauren Tombtone. I am so excited to be here with my good friend Nikita Romanoff of the Haus of Romanoff. Nikita, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start off with how did you discover drag and what led to the Haus of Romanoff? Let's start there.
Well, as a teenager, living on the outskirts of town, like, there was no real creativity that I could, like, express. I didn't know that it was this that was building inside of me. Turning 21, going to the bar and figuring out and meeting all of the other drag performers at the time, I was like, there's something about this that piques my interest.
But you wanted to personalize it. You knew that off the bat. You could sense that.
Yes. There was something inside of me that was like, what I see is not fulfilling enough. There's something missing. There's something missing from the whole storyline of all the performers going back to back. There's a flair that's not there.
Okay.
Then I started working with all of them firsthand in the back, helping them get dressed, seeing all the background secrets of how everything worked.
Getting that insider's view that pulls the curtain back just enough.
Taking mental notes of what worked, what didn't work, how it worked.
So how many years between that moment and your first performance? What you might consider your turning point performance?
6 months.
All right. The flame was lit and it burned hot.
The whole reason that I actually started to do drag and needed to do drag, I had just signed the lease for my very first apartment.
Okay.
I was actually working with the bar, like making a paycheck regularly. Right. Bar was bought out, everybody was fired. Days after I signed my lease.
Big time.
How do you make money?
You got to make it happen immediately, and I can relate to that. I mean, who can't relate to that kind of immediacy, right? We've all been there in one way or another.
So I was like, I got to do this. I know I can do this.
And thus it was born. So when did Haus of Romanoff get founded?
It wasn't shortly after that I started performing that people started gravitating towards me, and they were like, you offer something so different. I want to get to know you. I want to be around you. And I sat there, and in the big picture of things, it takes a team.
Yes.
So why not start to build with all of your friends around you and make something much bigger.
So it becomes a vehicle, not only for you, but for other people.
Mm-hmm. And as we started to play on this idea of making it bigger and assigning roles, jobs, including my friends as like backup dancers, we started making merch.
Right.
And then it started to identify itself as an actual house.
And I imagine people who maybe had never thought that they had, like, suddenly people realize they have a talent that comes out of the woods. Like, well, actually, I do know how to do that. Or, you know, if you need a hand with that, actually, and suddenly people who didn't have a place but had a skill that they didn't know anything to do with,
it comes out.
The synergy of it. Okay, okay. So moving on here, and I may be backtracking a little. You specialize in villain and horror themes. What draws you to these darker archetypes?
The power.
Ah.
The power. There is something that is so powerful about being the villain, the darker energy, the black sheep.
Yes.
If you will, amongst the acceptable and plethora variety of other types of performance arts.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, and think in that respect of I think back to a lot of the early days of, you know, Universal horror films, and especially Hammer horror films, that you have, you think about all these actors and all these people that were involved in them, they came from really high end theater stuff. They came from a lot of times the creme de la creme, and they had the background and they were in it and had never made it. Yeah. And one of my favorite lines was from Boris Karloff. He said, you know, the monster, I would have never been anything without the monster. The monster became my best friend. And the monster, of course, being Frankenstein's monster. Not Frankenstein, for those who may be of a slightly younger generation and are still confusing that aspect. You'll get your Guillermo del Toro education on that soon enough.
Frankenstein was the doctor, not the monster.
Exactly. And I think that was one of the first films that really set the tone for the question of everyone went in, you know, the way and it was such great advertising, you know, the posters and the lead up and the sense that you were going in to see this horrific thing, and at the end of it you wind up questioning, what was the real horror? Who was the monster? And how that has played out time and time again. You know, even into things like Scooby-Doo. The monsters are always people.
Yeah. Always unmasked to be regular, average Joe people with an alternative.
Exactly. A hidden agenda. Unfortunately, the horrors of today are far too real, and I think that's one of the things that horror today that drew me to wanting to do this show as an exploration of a way to deal with the horrors, modern horrors, past horrors. We all have them. We all experience them. But horror gives us a way to personify and objectify and also, at the same time, relate. And continuing on, when you build a look, do you start with... what do you start with? The character? The performance?
So, for me personally, it kind of depends. Most of the time, it's theme-based. So a lot of shows have some sort of theme that they want to push you into.
Right.
Being one of those people that consistently goes outside of the box, but still stays in parameters
Right.
of themes. It can start with a song, and I'm like, oh, wait, I have an idea. It can start with an outfit that I'm like, okay, this would be kind of cool to fit this theme.
Right.
How do we build on that? It could be a compilation of Vine episodes on YouTube that spark and inspire something
Right.
that make me laugh hysterically out of the blue, and I have to build it, and then comes the outfit and the performance.
So you let it take shape.
Yeah, it free flowing as the inspiration comes. It just kind of builds itself as we go.
I love it.
In specifics, I won't give too many details away. There is a show that I work with every single month, and this show is right before Halloween. The theme is Fright Night.
Okay.
So, as I am, as a human being that is this alternative, I was like, hey, cool. So I have this idea, and I had to get clearance through the showrunner to bring a gurney and to make sure that it could be put on stage. My photographer actually gave me a song that he wrote inspired by my persona.
Oh my.
And that triggered this series of, hey, I could do this. This would be cool. Let's build on this. And there's this whole big, elaborate performance idea.
So by allowing yourself to flow from multiple points, not saying there's a formula that includes aesthetics, that includes sound, so it could come as a performance. A drag performance includes aesthetics, lighting, sound, textures, etc. Then the thing that you're drawing from could draw from any of those. Your inspiration could come from any of those things. Yes. Related as well.
Absolutely. The inspiration, when it sparks, like, no matter what I'm doing, where I'm at, what's going on, I try my best to, like, keep a note open so I can, like, type it out on my phone and be like, okay, so I have this idea. If we mix this with this, I make all my own mixes. So, referring back to my notes, I can kind of, like, dial that in.
So you have a real personal black book, if you will.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Ooh.
Oh yes.
Ooh. I imagine that. Have you ever thought eventually, years down the way, perhaps, this might be like something you actually publish as like a tutorial guide?
I mean, I have thought about opening some sort of platform in which people can have an inside look of how this comes together.
Yeah.
How from start to finish of performance it all happens. So yes, I've contemplated, I've thought about how I could make that work.
I think a behind the shadows thing would do well for you. I would be in. I'd watch it. I'd buy it.
I always get in my head a little too much about, like, is it going to be too boring? Like, are people going to be like, oh, that's it? We see this, but that's how you do it. Oh.
And I think that's one of the things though where it's like with where we are today, whether if it is simple, I think that's half the time where people go, you're never gonna believe this. It was this or it was that.
Yeah.
I always hear about old school film tricks where I'm like, Vaseline on the lens, really? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, such an
Mm-hmm.
atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. When I started drag, I started as like the bubblegum blonde,
Right.
pink lipstick, like trying to fit in. That was super uncomfortable. Super uncomfortable for me. I took a vacation, came back with all of these like extra pieces that just sparked right. My favorite band came out with an album that set my fire.
Which was
In this moment, came out with Black Widow. That album changed my entire life. It changed my persona. It changed everything about me, even like as a human. When I took this vacation, I started buying like spider lenses. This piece, that piece, and like just kind of like, okay, like I'm kind of in this vibe, like feeling the music because it just came out. I put it all together one night and showed up at the bar, and everybody was like, "Ah!"
I love it.
From that point on,
Done. Sold.
this is
no turning back.
No, I felt the biggest fire inside of me at that point.
That's awesome.
So like, yeah.
I like it. There you have it. The origins. Now, continuing on, how has drag influenced your life outside of performance?
Ooh, that question. As I started, confidence skyrocketed.
Ah.
Being able to paint, change the persona, the vibe, whatever I wanted to push out,
Right.
all the feelings, through a breakup, through a happiness, through an engagement. You get to control those things, and that comes out here. That lets it out in a different manner to then like wear differently in my everyday life. The things that are pent up that you can't express normally, or you don't really know how to express. Having a room full of people that are like, yeah, like you go on with your bad self, and hyping you up if it's a negative feeling that you're putting out, and feeling that collective, like everybody's felt this way before, everybody can vibe, that lets it go. I can get that out. It's almost like an emotional, like puking, if you want.
Exactly. Absolutely. It's that. So it's a transformation, and I think that is something that is a central theme again and again within horror.
Yes.
But that is a central part of your experience and process.
Yeah, and like being able to put that out and push it out, and then having that like feeling or emotion purged from me during my everyday life has led me to like work with bigger organizations that help the community, that integrate myself further into the community. It brings a really human fuel to myself to like keep going in different aspects.
It's where the character becomes more than a character.
Yeah.
And bridging that, bringing that realness. I think that's so many times great horror films are often based in some way on some element of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Real experiences, real people.
exactly. And so they become the thing that we can't deal with. The fiction becomes the vehicle for that. And so, but yet because there's that real fuel behind it, that connection and experience and transmutation of experience, can you say that it's just a story? It's just a character? That it's not real? That's where we begin to be able to blur those lines.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can blur those lines is so important.
Being able to blur the lines sometimes is the biggest self-indulgence and relief at the same time. I can't tell you how many times that there has been. Every time that I perform, I try and tell a story from start to finish in my performance. Sometimes those performances get a little very specific with set emotions that you deal with as a regular human being. To see that from a audience member and their perspective is relatable. Being the performer that does it relates to everybody else. That heavy weight lives.
I can see it. I can see it in the performances. I can feel it in those performances.
Sometimes there's a lot more fire behind something than anybody would know.
And that's you've led us to another question here. If you were to be able to get anybody with you, a legendary horror icon, say from a film, it could be from cartoons, who would be your dream person to perform with?
Gosh, there are so many.
And they could be they could be fiction. In this case, it could be Freddy Krueger. It could be villain from Scooby
Doo. I've been thinking about this literally all day. I tend inspiration-wise, Gravity, a Cenobite like Pinhead.
Okay.
Could do wonders with that. Also, somebody like Shigo from Kim Possible.
Ooh, okay.
She's got that flair that just is like, excuse me.
Right.
That's empowering and like could play off of that very, 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 very well. The list.
It's too big. But I'll say, imagine even just those two. Just let your minds toy with the notion of those two characters with Nikita.
Or like Bellatrix Lestrange from Harry Potter.
There's the list.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and again, because you are versatile, sky's kind of the limit here. You are, to me, in a sense, I'll say this: you remind me much of Boris Karloff, in the sense of an artist who is able to embody many faces while remaining familiar and also absolutely unique with each one. And that is I think something that honestly is rare these days. Is honestly rare these days. I will ask you this: Every villain has a catchphrase. What would yours be?
Be better, do better.
Oh.
Or
Ooh.
or pretty and petty.
Ooh. I think both work. I think both work.
They're not something that you can like have like one of those Scooby-Doo chase scenes and like casually pop out of your mouth and have it work and fit. But they're a vibe that
That first one though has a lurking razor edge in it that I like. It's an empowering statement. It's also a challenge and a slight bit of a threat. I like it.
And a little bit of a dig.
just a little with the.
Or maybe a lot, depending on when you see it or where you see it.
Ooh. Well, wow. So there were some more tidbits for you. Every villain has an indulgence. What's yours?
Ooh. Fortnite.
Aha.
Big Fortnite player. Also, you know when like craft stores make their whole identity like fall?
Yeah.
And Halloween? That right there.
You're in. You're in every one. You check them all out.
I have a literal like list on my phone of stores that carry what they do, when they generally put things out, and when to check them on repeat.
I love it.
Every year we call it Code Orange shopping.
Ah, there you have it.
That is my utmost guilty pleasure of all time.
We are now obviously in I would say a high degree of Code Orange at this point.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely.
So Code Orange noted. Code Orange. All right, we are coming close here. Ooh. What would you like the audience to take away from your performances?
So that I've been asked that a few different times, and the answer kind of is subject to what's going on. Generally, my motto is I want the audience to be like, what's happening? What's going on? This is different. I like this. I didn't know this existed. Am I a little turned on? Or am I a little scared?
Right.
Am I not turned on? Am I getting a little confused? What's happening? When people come up to me and they're like, I have to tell you, I don't understand it. I don't know what's happening. But I feel a little frisky. And I'm a little scared. And I don't know how I'm talking to you right now because the intimidation factor is like next level. But here I am, and it's kind of thrilling that like I don't know if I'm turned on or not. Factor. When somebody comes up to me and says that, my night is made.
You have blurred the lines, pulled the veil, here and back again.
Yes, I like to deliver a whole entire performance. When I've watched entertainers go out there and just like casually kind of like do whatever they
give people what they're used to seeing.
Yeah, surface level, if you may, from my personal experience having done, it leads to a lot being desired. Like you leave and they're like, oh, yeah, that was the thing. When I go on stage, I don't want people to feel that way. I want somebody to walk away being like, holy cow. That was an experience. I didn't know that existed.
And maybe even question something in themselves.
Exactly. And when they come up and talk to me, and they're like, I'm not sure what to say, but like I want to say like that was really cool. I really loved the experience. I have a lot of questions about myself at this point.
Take them out of their comfort zone and into your space.
Yes. That's where it fuels my fire to be like, okay, so what I did was impactful to the audience. Now it's raising the bar for myself in aspects of like, people are now like, okay, I don't know if I'm a little frightened, I'm a little turned on. So how can I outdo myself from here to further that and up the ante? Hearing that takeaway seals the deal for me. That I at that point I know that I've done my job the way that I want to.
Awesome. Now, speaking of fueling fires, what has been the most rewarding part of leading your own house and inspiring and mentoring other artists?
Being able to teach. Through the years, like, I've been doing this for so many years. And sharing my experience, the tips for makeup, hair, nails, on stage, off stage, sharing tidbits of inspiration, knowledge that I have learned that works, that doesn't work. Being able to share that amongst the people that are around me that really want to learn, that have the hunger and the want, they need.
Yes.
That is the ultimate reward for me, to be able to like teach them how to satisfy that craving inside of them and continuously help entertainers and individuals around me grow as human beings and entertainers. I don't want to specify and say that drag is an entertainment. I don't want to specify and say that this is an entertainment. Mm-hmm. Entertainment as an umbrella all matters. Like every avenue to be able to lend what I've learned, every aspect of try this. How about this? In my experience, this has not worked. This does a little bit better. Helps everybody around me succeed, and that is the most rewarding feeling. And that's why I do what I do.
That's beautiful. I think that, the next generation is obviously going to be better off having encountered you. And because of what you bring, being a unique approach, and also being a very honest approach to what you do, it shows. And I look forward to what the future holds for Haus of Romanoff and for your performances as well. And I look forward to seeing the next generation that you help to bring into the world of performance here, and hopefully they go beyond, Spokane. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but hopefully, in this day and age, the world comes to us via technology oftentimes. So,
yes, absolutely.
And here we are as such. But once again, I would like to thank you, Nikita, for being here with me on Sunglasses After Dark for the debut episode.
every else, thank you for having me be your guest. Like, I can't tell you how much it means to me. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And be sure to tune in again to my channel and to the show. There will be more to come from I and Nikita.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that things are already working in the shadows, so to speak. And there may be some tales from the drag side sooner than later. So stick around, friends. All right, friends, without further ado, here's my little Halloween ode to one of my favorite bands. I'm not going to name who's who. It's a little guessing game for you. Trick or treat, so to speak. Enjoy. All right, friends, this is my final song of the evening. It's a little instrumental, and it goes out to someone very special. This song's called Lucifer's Stroll. thank you all so much for tuning in to this, my debut episode for Sunglasses After Dark. We are already hard at work on upcoming episodes, so please follow, like, look for us on social medias. We're out there. And we promise we'll be back with something new, something exciting, perhaps something strange, definitely unexpected. Look for it next month, near the end of the month. We don't have a date set exactly yet, but currently our release date is looking at something like 1 episode a month, near the end of the month. So, I wanted to also say happy Halloween, happy Samhain. To all of you, I hope you've had a safe one. I hope you have had a fantastic one. And I hope you have a fantastic year ahead. We are looking forward to much excitement here. And I wanted to say, remember, life is shot in wide angle. The camera is always rolling. You are the writer. You are the hero, the heroine, or the villain or villainess. You choose. Perhaps you're all of the above. Whatever the story, make it a good one. And as always, stay safe and stay fabulous, darlings.